Hey everybody, Steven here from VT3C. Going to do something a little bit different for this video. So before, we've done videos on training, showing you guys drills that you guys can do with firearms. We've done some medical, and we've done some communications. Obviously, the other thing we can obviously do is we can do videos on movement, CQB, survival stuff, and much more, vehicle operations, and a few other things. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do this series I'm going to start now called Gun Talk. And we're going to kind of do like an overview kind of thing. And these are just going to talk about firearms, the history of them, but the firearms I have and what I think about them and kind of the history behind them. So first, let's talk about like the most common firearm you guys will hear about is the AR-15 platform, which is modeled after the M16, M14 platform created by Eugene Stone back in the 1950s, 60s, and all the way up until modern time. And I mean, it's still in use today, so it just proves how good the platform is. So with that, the first kind of one that we're going to talk about is this one right here in front of me, my AR pistol. But first off, whenever we're handling firearms, we have to follow the 4 firearm safety rules, which is treat every firearm as it's loaded, to keep your finger off this trigger when weapon on safe until you're ready to fire, to don't point your firearm at anything you don't intend to destroy, kill, buy, anything along those lines. And the last thing is know what your target is and what's around it, both in front, behind, above, below, front and back. So those are your 4 firearm safety rules, which everybody should know that's handling firearms. So all these firearms on the table here are cleared and unloaded. So the first one we're going to talk about right here is my AR pistol that I modeled after the CAR-15 or the Colt AR-15 platform. Others call it the XM4, the Colt Commando. There's a lot of different ones. But I modeled this after a specific era, which was the late 1980s, early 1990s, which is predominantly known for the era of Delta, the most known era of Delta Force, which was Black Hawk Down, Operation Gothic Serpent, Battle of Mogadishu. And I wanted to model this AR off of it. As you see, it has a very, very similar setup with the carry handle with the optic on top. This is not clone spec anywhere close to it. I mean, I have a bad lever on this thing. I got an ambidextrous mag release, ambidextrous selector switch, ambidextrous charging handle. This thing is not clone spec. The other thing is like the original one had the carrying handle attached, like forged into it. This has a carrying handle that can be detached. So, but yeah, this is a Palmetto State AR pistol. You guys can pick these things up for real cheap. So if you guys want to get into the retro model, but this isn't my first rifle. I've had a couple ARs before this where I did like more modern style using mag pull features and stuff like that. And it's more modern style. What you see now with like the 193 mounts and the LPVOs and all that sort of stuff, which is like the typical mid 2010s to 2020s you would see in the military and in competition. So I had those. I have a couple of those, and I wanted to kind of pay tribute and go back because this right here, this is how I grew up. Was with a carrying handle with a rear side aperture with a front sight post, like the M16A2. That is the rifle, but I wanted something a little bit more nostalgic, and that's why I made this. Again, it's not clone spec, but this is very, very similar to what they would have been running. Again, with some more modern setup. Again, white light. Now, obviously, some were running some like off the side rails right here. Or they were using like a gooseneck with a red dot up on top, and then underneath here they were running like a PEG 2. I'm not running that. I'll actually have a more of a modern one that I have ordering that's coming in, IR laser illuminator coming in. but yeah, so that's this. So again, this is like your 1990s. The color scheme, very similar to what people have seen pictures of Gordy or Gordon and Shugart, which were two Delta operators that won the Medal of Honor. They had their rifles painted in this situation where instead of being a flat black, easy to spot rifle, they did stripes of OD green and tan to break up the profile of the firearm. So that's the first one. So the next step would have been kind of more my era, which would have been the early GWAT or the GWAT era or Global War on Terrorism era when I was in the service. And this is modeled after what we call an M4 carbine block 1 or mod 1, where they had a red dot, usually an aim point. It was either at a co-witness, an absolute co-witness, which means the red dot would line up between the rear sight aperture, the front sight post, and the red dot would be in the same line. So that you could 0 1, it would easily 0 the other. Then guys started going to the little bit higher up with a lower 1/3 co-witness, which means the lower 1/3 of the optic would have had the iron sights. Now with more modern things, we see that higher optics having that more heads-up platform, kind of similar to what they were running here with the carrying handle, was better for passive shooting with night vision, but also keeping that head up and not bearing your head into it and really cranking that neck. Or like when CQD, like having to keep it up here and bring it up like this to keep your head up, where I have barely any surface tension on this, where if I'm here, I can be like this and still go. So this is kind of similar to what I actually ran when I was overseas during the World War on Terror. And it was, we had a PEG 15, usually running a white light with it, broom handle stick. Later on, we saw the foregrip with the bipod where you hit the button and it deploys the bipod. We start seeing those. Again, this is not clone spec, but this is kind of the setup. Is I wanted something that was more similar to what I ran, and this is very, very similar. And again, I learned to first start grabbing the foregrip like this versus grabbing it with the C clamp, which is how I shoot now. So. But here I have a white light on this side. I have an IR illuminator over here because this only is a white light and IR laser. Other than that though, I did have this more higher up, and actually we started seeing that more when I was overseas, is guys raising their optics up so they could have that more heads up display, and they would also put cheek risers on so that they could still have this heads up display, but they would have a good cheek weld versus a chin weld. So this is the kind of that setup. Now paint scheme. So when I was in the service, this is kind of the paint scheme we did. We did same thing, following the model as this, having stripes. We did a little bit wider stripes to break it up more, or not really to break it up more, but so that we could pattern. And how we would pattern it, and I don't know if you guys can see this, is we would take mesh bags from our laundry bags, we'd cut them up and we lay them over and we spray it. A lot of guys would just do two-tone, so they do tan, OD green at like a hand width, and then they would put the mesh bag over it, and then they would spray the opposite. So like right here, tan, they would do OD green over top, tan, OD green, they just alternate from the base color. And which works. I actually remember when we went to Afghanistan, guys were painting their helmets this way. Instead of using a helmet cover, they'd paint it tan and do OD green over top, or OD green with tan. So it kind of is how they would want to set it up to kind of blend it in, but giving that more breakup kind of mesh look, snakeskin kind of look. I did a little bit different on this. I did 3 colors. So I did the 2-tone base, and then on the tan, instead of doing OD green, I did brown. The reason why is where I live, OD greens and tans are a lot of colors, but also browns are too. So this I would say was probably the early age of the global war on terrorism. So I'd say the early 2000s, even into the late 2000s. I would say 2009, 2010. We saw this, and then we started seeing things switch. When I was downrange in Afghanistan, we started seeing switch, and we started seeing what was called the Block 2. And the Block 2, which is this M14 is modeled after, was the exact same setup, except we would have a flip up. So sometimes this would be flip up, sometimes this would just be a fixed rear sight, kind of like this. And then we would put an ACOG, and we'd have an ACOG, a Trijicon ACOG 4-power magnified optic. So that was kind of the Block 2 or the Mod 2, and that's what this is kind of modeled after. Is now, obviously, there was guys in the special operations community that were running the ACOG setup, and this is just a knockoff ACOG with a red dot up on top. But this is a Mini 14. I love 14s. I think they're a great platform to have. But this is very, very similar to what we ran. Was we had an ACOG with the, and now I didn't run with a red dot on top, but a lot of guys were starting to put. We started seeing guys putting scope mounts or scope rings that had a Picatinny rail, and they would put, or just like a plate for a red dot, and they put red dots on top, and that's how they would run it. Very, very useful, very, very good thing, because then they still get that long distance shooting, but they get that heads up when they're doing CQB using passive night vision. So that's what this is kind of modeled after, is that next era. And I wanted to do this on an AR platform, but I bought this Mini 14. I thought, well, you know what, this would be a great firearm to kind of put the blend of the old school color scheme with the tiger stripe, which is when the M14 was really, really known for. And this Mini 14 with the 5.56, I decided to put, well, I want to kind of go to that, follow that line of progression. So this is what we would seem like in the most military guys would be rolling in probably 2010s all the way up in the mid 2010s. And then we started seeing these Unity mounts with the 193 and the 226 raised optics. So very, very different thing. But yeah, this is kind of some of my firearms. I haven't really shot a whole lot of these in my videos. I've been using different firearms, but I'll be starting to shoot these more in my videos. But yeah, this is kind of like I said, so 1990s, early 2000s, and then like 2010s into the mid 2010s. And then so much. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment. Please go like, share, and subscribe. This video really means a lot to me. I don't get paid to do this. I get paid to train people. So and kind of going back why my opinion kind of matters a little bit. So again, I spent 4 years active duty in the Army during the War on Terror, and then I did 2 years worth of security contracting outside that, where I had to carry firearms for a profession. And then I'm a certified firearms instructor as well as a certified gunsmith. And when I went through school to become a certified gunsmith, we had to learn about the history of these firearms. So it's really cool. So please, again, go like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Facebook.